Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Transformation Leaders Podcast. Today, we've got an exciting little session for you. We're going to do a deep dive, or more of a deep dive, into some, I guess you could call it even prompt engineering. And we're going to go into a very specific use case called role playing. And Sean is going to walk us through a bunch of different use case scenarios and demos that is going to give us a little bit more of an insight of when you use, generative AI in your business, how can you get the answer that you need and or expect out of it? Now, this session is just building on a much larger theme of the prompt engineering. So we have a couple of different podcasts that we've done previously. So we'll go ahead and link that in the comments below where you are seeing this video, and or if you're live, we'll post this after the video is done there, because we don't have any assistants to do that live. But in any event, Sean, I think you can share your screen and then kind of walk us through some of the demos and or give us a little bit of a preamble on maybe, at a high level, why somebody watching this early on might want to stick to the end in what you're going to show.
Excellent. So this all comes because I had a great conversation with a colleague this week. Shout out to Jason if you're here. And by the way, for all of you out there, please comment. When you're watching live, please comment and ask questions. We love to see those comments and answer those questions and, drive some of the value that we're talking about today comes from talking to the people who watch this podcast. So feel free to reach out. Sorry for the tangent, David, but the end of the day here is it's about prompting. And when someone says, hey, I need to learn how to prompt, that is a wide scope of discussion. And a lot of people say, if you're prompting bad, you can't get anything out of a large language model, and that you have to be expert prompters to use large language models. And I certainly push back on that. Prompting is no different than Google search, right? You type in what you want. Now, if you do it better, you get better answers, right? But you still get answers. So I don't want anyone out there to think that prompting is such an enormous obstacle that until I can spend a whole week learning how to prompt, I'm just not going to touch generative AI. That's just not the case. And I really want that to be on display here. But the context of today is around role playing. And role playing is just one of the lowest common denominators of functionality that your large language models can provide you. Now, the way I kind of explain role playing is adding a filter. Now, a large language model is built on all the data on the internet. Everybody's shouting each other for decades. That's what's all included in this model. So when you talk to it, you are effectively talking to the internet. And I don't know about you, but broadcasting out the internet a question, the kind of answers you get may not be very helpful. So you would want to put a filter. Now, if you want to assign a filter and then interact just with that filter, that's what role playing is. So it's a very easy concept to understand, but using flowery language can cause confusion here. So if you want to talk to the internet, you just say, hey, I want to talk to a helpful assistant. If you want to talk to a lawyer, you say, hey, you're a lawyer, and then ask a question. If you want to say, I want to talk to a real estate lawyer, so you can basically type your filter in as context and tell the engine, you are this. This is what you're doing. It's like if you grab somebody off the street who is the smartest person on earth and you say, hey, I want to talk to you solely with this part of your knowledge, and they can just separate the knowledge that doesn't apply so that you get fewer confusing results. Now, we talked about hallucinations a couple months back, and if you have a better context, you can have fewer hallucinations. So brass tacks, role playing is just creating a filter through the conversational interface.
Yep.
So that you can get better answers to the questions that you want to ask. Now, then it comes, okay, Sean, how can enterprises actually take advantage of that, right? So you have chatbots out there, and you can tell the chatbot, this is all that you know, and provide context, and really chain the AI to a certain set of data. And that's role playing. One of my favorite use cases is a equipment manufacturing that leases equipment out to companies, specifically small businesses like gas stations and corner convenience stores. In the corner of their store, they have, let's call it a vending machine. And that vending machine is sold to them, and they can use that to sell some of their products in their stores without a human involved. And they sell that piece of equipment, but it's very expensive. So what they rather do is they lease it, and they give you a 12-month, 36-month lease for that piece of equipment in your corner. Now, everything's great and fine, but this is hardware. What happens when hardware breaks, right? There's a maintenance contract with this. And the maintenance contract has legal language that says, if this happens, we will cover it. If this happens, we absolutely will not cover it. So if you can imagine, you have this mom and pop shop, right, who's doing this lease on one hand, and on the other hand, we have this equipment manufacturing, and they have this legal agreement. So if you can imagine a flood happening, well, who should cover that? Well, not the equipment manufacturer, right? If somebody takes a bat to the vending machine, who should cover that, right? Now, if, for example, the batteries inside the vending machine were to break and couldn't be charged anymore, who should be able to take that? So there's a long legal definition of this. So anything that breaks in that machine, to be able to build the right party, you're going to need legal expertise. Now, if anything breaks in this machine, you will have to know how to repair the machine, right? So imagine, if you will, mom and pop shop, hey, the vending machine doesn't work anymore. They submit a trouble ticket. And that trouble ticket says, this is what's going on. The manufacturing people go out, send a person on site, fix the machine, and close the ticket. So there's going to be a long history of that problem, and said, this is what it took to fix it. And then that information is going to require a lot of mechanical engineering understanding of that piece of equipment. And then the flip side is there's this legal language. So to be able to close out this ticket and bill the right person, you need somebody with intense understanding of the mechanical side and intense understanding of the legal side. Now, how hard is it to find people to do this, right? You're going to need a clerk that you can, a legal clerk who you can train to do mechanical engineering. Like, who, you can't find these people, but this is where role playing comes into play. You can effectively have a very rudimentary understanding of both and give a human being a summation and say, hey, this is the problem. This is what's covered in the legal agreement. And then here's the references to the equipment guide. Here's the references to the legal agreement. And so therefore, this is our recommendation. And then a human being with good business judgment can finish this. And so that is one of my favorite use cases. Now, a second use case I love to talk about is coaching, right? It is incredibly difficult for supervisors to be able to coach in real time a lot of the people that they're supervising. So this could be a tech support model, but what I love talking about is more of the sales model. So everybody has probably either talked to a sales guy or been a salesperson in their career. And you hire people who don't understand the product well. You hire people who don't understand the legal requirements of getting pay and all this kind of stuff. So when it comes down to a salesperson making a deal, they have to talk to legal, they have to talk to finance, they have to have approvals of certain levels, right? And this means that your sales have a 20% lag, an extra cost, because they have to talk to all these other people. Now, if you had a sales assistant that had the basic business knowledge of all these different roles as a coach, just imagine what the sales process could be and accelerate sales. So these are just two very different extreme ends of what this functionality could mean. So, David, any question of those two?
No, the only thing I would add to what you said, and this is not necessarily a use case, but going to the enterprise comment that you had made earlier, and this is probably more for any technical folks than leaders. Microsoft just had a conference recently, and yesterday they had a bunch of announcement that they published publicly. OpenAI has this same technology. Most of the large language models for enterprise, as you implement AI inside of the workplace, you're going to start hearing this word quite a bit. And that word is agent. And so what Sean is talking about today is very like the grassroots. We're really talking about grassroots. And this is so that everybody understands, from whether you're a business leader on the front end or that salesperson, or whether you're the back end or whatever. And I want you to think of all of the different roles that Sean gave for the vending machine. Even you got the legal, you got this and that and all the other people. Well, agents fill those specific roles, and those specific roles, those agents handle it. And so that usually there's a manager in whatever department that you have, and they're responsible for delegating and work amongst the different workers. In this case, we're talking about AI. So there's an overarching organizing agent delegator, I guess, for lack of a better term, to try to keep this non-technical. But for the most part, you're going to start seeing specific role-specific based agents to do these types of things in the workplace. And so you'll see when Sean provides the scope of the demo very specifically later how that works. And I want you to really start thinking and make comments, because everybody's going to learn from everybody else and say, how are you using them? How are you using them as agents? Are you using them single scope, just as an assistant? Sean said, I wish, the salesperson had an assistant, and every salesperson wishes. Well, now they do. Whether you call the AI Jenny for GenAI or whatever you call the AI, it's there and it's ready for you to use. Obviously, more and more companies are getting to the point where they realize, hey, if we don't implement something, then they're going to be left behind. So Sean and I both work for a company that has a fantastic solution. Hit us up on LinkedIn, and we're more than happy to talk to you one-on-one about that.
Yep. And very important distinction, David. Agents are turnkey role play assistants, yep. Right? So, and I want to jump right in, share out one of my screens. David, hopefully you can see this.
I can.
So this is my Olama instance. with a web UI on top. There are plenty of examples out there. You can go and use ChatGPT. You can use Gemini. You can use Claude, POE. This is what I use because the work that I do, my clients expect a certain amount of privacy. So I run this on my computer. You can install this on your laptop, your desktop computer. I have a virtual machine in my home cloud that I have that I run this on. And it's fairly efficient. If you've ever had 20 tabs open on a Chrome browser, you probably have enough horsepower to be able to run this. And you can stop it whenever you want. But just want to kind of start at the beginning for me. So one of the first things that I did is I said, write a poem like Tyler Durden. Now, if you know who Tyler Durden is, that's from the book of Fight Club, and then the movie of Fight Club, which is, very depressing and anarchist, and you can take any kind of context and you could see its explanation is nihilism and self-destruction, right? So I can write a poem like J.K. Rowling, right? So here are two different styles, and this is why our marketing teams find a lot of value because you can put the different perspectives behind the content creation, right? The writing styles that you can adopt. Now, moving beyond that, you can do this with images. If you know Midjourney and DALL-E and some of those, where you could say, create me this in the style of this famous painter. And Meta is coming out with audio ones so that you can have, write a piece of music in the style of Nine Inch Nails versus the Beatles. This is the amazing aspect that you get with generative AI, is that it is fairly adaptable. Now, being able to drive this forward, you can be more specific or less specific. So I could say, you are a historian, right? I'm giving context. This is the role play. When people say, oh, setting up a context for role play is so difficult, I did it in 4 sentences. I took everything out of the scope of history and I put it in here. It says, give me a short paragraph on the rise of the Industrial Revolution, right? Now, I say, you are a first grade teacher, which, by the way, I married one, and have a first grade. Do you see the difference? Like, very specific language, right? So I said historian, which was obviously very adult focused. Look at the words urbanization, mass manufacturing, social structures, right? Textile manufacturing. And then at the bottom, what? Machines is the most complicated word choice. So this is the very, very first level of being able to role play. And it is simple. Some could say it's just context. David, any point?
Yeah, the only other point that I would say to what you said there, just because people probably are going to hear this maybe for the first time, and they may go ahead and try this. Again, we covered a lot of this in our previous videos, but just a quick call out. If you do exactly what you see Sean doing here, which works because of how he worded it, but just to let you know that as you type additional information in this session that you keep seeing, Sean keeps using the same window. So there's context of everything that's been discussed here, and potentially, depending on how you word or ask the question, it can use the knowledge from the previous part of your conversation to influence the output of the next whatever it's going to say or iteration. So just to call out that if you don't get something exactly quite what you think, it might be because you polluted the conversation with something previous. And you may just need to do a new chat. So even though this is, a llama that he's using, there's a ton of them. All of them have the ability to fire up or start up a new chat. And so just wanted to call that out in case somebody didn't get the results that they were expecting.
So great point, David. I said using the last reply, write me a half-day lesson plan on the same, right? So, this is a conversation that you're having.
Yep.
Now, there are some things you need to be aware of. Like, I can do something completely nonsensical here, and the AI will not stop you, right? So I can tell it, okay, rewrite that lesson plan as if Tyler Durden is going to teach it. Right? That is completely unacceptable in society. So I want to be careful in saying that AI is an assistant, but it is not a human assistant that you can trust. No. So always remember that. Now, going back to sales, right? I want to go through and, I want to create a new chat and say, you are a salesperson who is helping me reach out to clients, to potential clients, about partnering up on our new product. Let's just use Open AI Chat GPT, right? I will ask for help, and you will respond with helpful answers, right? So this is just the conversation, right?
Yeah, I also want to call out too that you're using Olama, and all of these tools that are out there, that prompt that Sean did at the very beginning set the stage, the tone for the role, and you can copy this out. Some of these applications actually let you take what he just wrote and save it off into a library. Even if you don't have that feature or functionality, there's lots of tools out there like notebooks, and you got OneNote from Microsoft, and there's a plethora of them. But the point is, you can keep your prompting library for whatever it is that you want to use. So you can use these reuse cases that Sean's showing you here today again and again.
So I'm just having a conversation, and I asked a question. I focus on healthcare, and they're having IT cost control issues. I want to reach out to VP of technology and mid-market. Right? And it is just like I'm talking to a coach, right? The more context and information that I give it, the better, right? And let's say I get to a point where, okay, I think I've had a good introductory call where I have told the AI, I've trained the assistant these are the kind of things that I want you to think about. These are the things that maybe I'm not good at that I expect you to be good at. These are the kind of questions I'm going to answer. And then it's going to ask questions for more and more context. And when you're done providing all the context you can, you could just say, summarize the context of this conversation so I can use it next time. So this is how you can just copy and paste, put this in your notepad, right? And then next time, let's say you have a conversation with somebody over the phone, you hit the transcribe button and it transcribes everything. You could take that file and I can go through and upload the file right into this interface. They all have them. Again, I recommend running it privately
Yes.
so that data does not leak on the internet. We have a great product that we sell that has data privacy built in that I heavily recommend taking a look at for this purpose. But you can upload that file in, and what you get as a result is you have the context of the assistant, and then you tell the assistant, this is the conversation that we had, and you can ask, how, what should the follow-up email be? What are the action items from the call, right? So there are really neat products out there, if you've heard of Otter as an example, that will log in to your Zoom session and provide you this assistant on the side. So you can throw a rock and hit 15 different tools out there in the marketplace that help you create that assistant for you. And then one last point that I wanted to make is, this can make things as large or broad as you want. Starting a new chat, explain to me what API is, right? And this is giving me a context of a very casual conversation as a layman, right? Now, explain to me what API is at the level of a first grader. Because, I'm that mature sometimes. Maybe I need to explain this for a different audience. Imagine your phone has superpowers, right? Just like I would have never thought of it to explain it at that level. And this is the point of what this technology can do for you, for your business, for your customers or your clients, is it allows you to provide superpowers to your people. A lot of people are afraid of this technology because it's going to replace their people. It's just not true. I have not seen use cases that replace people. Certainly people, I don't know anybody who has a job that all they do all day long is give you ideas on how to send email. But what this does do is it gets all the minutia out of the way, that you can go in and your first draft can be something that an expert can tweak slightly and approve, instead of them having to go through a full draft, or even worse, you having to have 15 phone conversations or web calls with different appropriate people to make sure that you have the context. And maybe you'll never have to do that action again. So again, really appreciate the time, David, walking you through role playing here and what it can do for the industry at large, but more importantly, for transformation leaders.
Excellent. Excellent. So the one thing that I saw there that I'm going to date myself is I couldn't imagine in first grade ever having access to a phone. And looking at society the way that it is today, it's quite true. There is a lot of kids, and if you think about the power that your phone possesses, uh, and now, children in first, second, elementary school, we'll leave it at that, have phones. Yeah, you're going to have to learn this role playing and this prompt engineering, because these first graders are coming up and they're going to leave everybody behind. This is going to be so normal to them, where this is going to be a hard learned skill for a lot of us. So one of the things I usually tell people is that, don't be afraid. And Sean said it too. I can't remember if Sean started it or I finished it, or how it went, or who said what first, one last. But basically, you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to the person who knows how to use AI. So just get in there and learn it. It's here. It's a tool. Love, hate it, lot of whatever. If you're a leader, you're out there, you're thinking about it, you want to know more about it, hit Sean and I up on LinkedIn. We're more than happy to do a workshop with you, have one-on-ones, all kinds of information sharing and things of that nature. Otherwise, if you don't reach out to us, you can always find us every Wednesday here at 12 o'clock noon Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.